So when I first heard that the base iPhone 17 was getting the long-awaited ProMotion display with 120 Hz, I thought this would be the most obvious year ever to go for the base model instead of the Pro. But after actually using the iPhone 17 and the iPhone 17 Pro for the past week, I've realized that there's more to the decision than I realized. So in this video, I'm going to discuss my thoughts on the iPhone 17 versus the iPhone 17 Pro and which one you should buy. So I'll give you my honest thoughts on that display and the camera in a moment, but I want to start by talking about the design and the overall just daily usability, because this year is pretty crazy. Apple took a lot of Pro features and just slapped it onto the iPhone 17 while keeping the same $800 price tag. And there are 3 Pro features or changes that were slapped onto the iPhone 17 that I noticed within the first week of usage. And the first one is one that a lot of people are not talking about, but that is the precision dual frequency GPS. That used to be a Pro exclusive, but now it's on the base model, and I always notice the difference when it comes to Find My, location tracking, just GPS in general. It's much better than what we had on previous base models. Also, the starting storage is now 256 gigabytes on the base 17, not 128. So the storage size has doubled, and again, stays the same price. But the icing on top, the number one big change that I think a lot of people are excited about, including myself, is that we now have that ProMotion 120 Hz display on the base model, not just on the Pros. And remember last year where the Pro models were made of titanium and they kind of just had a better build quality than the base model? Well, that's not the case this year either, because this year they're both made of aluminum. So of course the Pro model has the unique aluminum unibody design for the first time, and this not only looks different physically, but it also feels different in the hands. The corners are a little bit more rounded off, and I noticed that the corners kind of just sink into my palm. They kind of just sit there, a little softer than the more sharp edges. It's not really super sharp, but you could tell a difference when holding these two in the hands. And I would actually say that the Pro model this year is a bit more slippery in the hands because of how it curves more and kind of just sits in your hand. And that's why I think a case is like a must this year, especially for the Pros, because of the way those corners are a little bit more rounded off. And plus, also this year we have Scratchgate, which I'm sure you guys have heard about by now. This is mainly affecting the Pro models and the iPhone Air. So the 17 is, I guess, safe from this, but me personally, I've not had any issues with scratching on either one of these devices. I've been using them just average. I'm not trying to, scratch them up with a penny or anything like that. I'm just using them day to day, rolling them across, on platforms, putting them in my pockets with other things in my pockets. And I really don't have anything to show for it on either one of them. The 17 Pro is also ever so slightly taller, wider, and a good bit thicker. So the 17 weighs 26 grams less than the 17 Pro, and it's noticeable. Like when you're holding these or throwing these in your pockets, you could just feel the chunkiness of the Pro model this year. But that added weight is for good reason, because the 17 Pro is the first iPhone ever to get the vapor chamber cooling system inside, which helps significantly when performing, more intensive tasks or gaming. So it also has a bigger battery than the iPhone 17, which we'll expand on both of those a little bit more later on in this video. So it's not just thick just to be more thick. There's actually real life benefits that you get from the added thickness on the Pro models. But I have to say, I'm not the biggest fan of the aluminum unibody design. Like, I'm not a fan of the antenna being at the top of the device. I'm not the biggest fan of the two-tone on the back, regardless of the color. I think the deep blue looks the best, if anything, but on other phones, it just looks kind of weird, kind of un-Apple-like. And then the camera plateau, of course, is pretty massive, and you kind of always end up putting your finger on that to rest when you're using it without a case. So, right over the LiDAR scanner here, I noticed myself doing that quite a bit. So that can get kind of annoying, but, at the same time, the base model iPhone 17 just looks like the iPhone 16, aside from the new colors, like this sage here, which I really love. Now, the Pros will be more durable because we do have ceramic shield on the back of the phone for the first time. The base model does not have that, whereas on the front, they are pretty much the same because we have ceramic shield 2, which is going to lead to 3 times better scratch resistance. But again, I haven't really been able to see any scratches on my devices, but as far as like when I watch the durability test, it does seem to do a little bit better, but it's not really going to make a huge difference. It's still not going to be like completely scratch proof. Now, something that is significantly different from last year in the best way possible is that we now have a 120 Hz display on the base model iPhone 17. Like, if you guys go back many years, a lot of people, I've seen it here on my channel, so many people used to get the Pro model specifically for the display, and that's it. But this year, they have the same display. The Pro and the iPhone 17 have the exact same display. It's not just the 120 Hz refresh rate, everything is the same. We have the same 3000 nits of peak brightness when outdoors, the same 1 nit of minimum brightness for the always-on display. They both have the anti-reflective display, and also something else important that people don't really realize enough until you use these phones in real life, and that is that the bezels are the same. So last year, one of my biggest complaints about the base model iPhone was that the bezels were chunky. You could tell a difference when you picked up the iPhone, like the base iPhone, after using the Pro, and it just looked outdated because the bezels were so large. But that's been resolved this year as well. Apple put the same amount of bezel on the Pro and on the base model. So now it doesn't look like you went back 3 years when you use a base model compared to a Pro, because the screen takes up, the same amount of space on both. And that of course is likely because, once again, we have the same 6.3-inch display on each of these devices. But something that is not even close to the same is on the back side, because we have two completely different camera setups on the back. Now, yes, of course, the main camera sensor is the same, a 48 megapixel fusion camera, but there are a lot of differences beyond that. And I'll tell you one thing, if you plan on shooting videos on your iPhone 17 or iPhone 17 Pro and you want them to look as professional and as nice as possible, I would highly recommend picking up a gimbal. And today's sponsor, Insta360, has the best one for the iPhone, hands down in my opinion, with the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro. I've been using this exact gimbal since January, and it's the only accessory I bring with me when I'm out shooting videos from my iPhone. So basically you just attach your iPhone with the MagSafe mount or the clamp, and you can then use the Flow 2 Pro as a tripod, a selfie stick, a power bank, or most importantly, as a gimbal to get some super crisp, stabilized footage. And the reason this works so well with the iPhone specifically is because it's the first and only smartphone gimbal to support Apple Dock Kit, which means that you can track a face natively in the camera app. So you don't need to download third-party apps for tracking, although you can use this feature in those apps. And it doesn't just track you side to side. This has full 360-degree pan tracking, so you can run in circles, and this thing will be able to track you around the whole time. So that's cool, but in my opinion, the best use case for this Insta360 Flow 2 Pro is going to be for the different gimbal modes, for getting those cinematic shots and then using features like dolly zoom in the Insta360 app for a just killer cinematic shot. Also, just look how aesthetically pleasing like the look of this thing is. The mini mirror on the back also helps a lot for framing your shots without needing to see the screen. So if you want to pick up the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro, aka the ultimate iPhone gimbal that I personally use all the time, click my special link in the description below, and the first 5 orders get a free magnetic phone mount. So yeah, that gimbal can even make your base iPhone 17 videos look amazing. So that's like kind of a cheat code for recording videos, but there's no denying that the Pro model iPhone is going to have the superior camera. So for the first time ever, we have a triple 48 megapixel setup on the Pro iPhones, and that 48 megapixel telephoto lens is amazing because we get 4 times to 8 times optical zoom. So this makes zooming in such a great experience. Like, I'll tell you right now, if you're like a parent and you have kids and you go to dance recitals, if you go to any type of recital or sporting event and you are always zooming in, because typically you're far back, you're in the stands, you're in the crowd, and you need to zoom a lot, I will tell you right now, you are going to want the Pro iPhone. Even if you don't use anything else, like the added battery and things like that, the zooming capabilities on the Pros are going to be significantly better. So if you're in that camp where you're watching your kids and you're trying to get those memories, which are priceless, just spend a little bit of extra money and get the Pro, because that's going to make it worth it when you're at those events and you're able to zoom in so far and get really crisp shots. And honestly, I've been using the telephoto lens so much more than the ultra wide lens over the past couple of years. So, on the base model iPhone 17, you get the ultra wide lens along with that main lens, so you don't get any type of telephoto lens. And I have to admit, I also really love the extreme zooming on the 17 Pro this year, because we can now zoom in up to 40x. We have a 40 times digital zoom for photos. You can only go up to 10x on the iPhone 17. So that's a 4 times, you can zoom in 4 times more than on the base model. And then for video, it goes up to 24 times or 24x compared to just 6x on the 17. It's just really fun to use these zoom ranges for subjects that are far away. Like when I was out trying to capture planes and jets landing at an airport, the 17 just struggled big time. Like it just was not able to zoom in near as much as the 17 Pro. And with the 17 Pro, I could basically see the pilot inside from super far away because of this crazy zoom. But the reality is, most days you're just going to be using the regular main camera, the main Fusion camera, which on both of these is the exact same. It's the same 48 megapixel sensor. So the shots you're going to get from the main, just when you pull it out and you just shoot a shot real quick, it's going to be pretty much the same on both of these. these. However, the time you will see the big difference is when it comes to Pro formats, because the base model iPhone 17 does not have access to Pro RAW, like shooting photos in Pro RAW or videos in ProRes. And just like I said in my 17 Pro versus iPhone Air video, that's a huge potential deal breaker for anybody who considers themselves a pro user and you like taking, good shots, whether that's for your business or just as a hobby. Being able to shoot photos in RAW format and being able to manipulate the colors in Lightroom is a huge deal. And same with ProRes. Like, the file size is large, but being able to shoot videos in ProRes, it looks so much better than regular 4K recording on an iPhone 17. So that's going to be a big potential deal breaker for those pros out there. And let's not forget that the iPhone 17 can only shoot video in 4K 60 FPS, whereas the 17 Pro can shoot 4K 120 FPS. So if you want to get some really crisp and it's really good slow motion shots especially, you can shoot in 120 and kind of slow that down as well in the built-in, Photos application. So that's also a big win if you're somebody who shoots in 120 FPS. But again, that's only really pros that are even going to consider that, and they've probably already decided on the Pro anyways. Also, the 17 Pro does have better microphones, so it does have the studio quality 4-mic array, so when you're recording videos, it'll sound a little bit better, and especially when you're shooting, voice memos. When you're recording a voice memo, it'll sound better when you're using the built-in microphones. Now, here's something I thought was going to be a difference between these two, but I was really not able to find a big difference, and that is with the OIS, the optic image stabilization, because the 17 Pro has second generation sensor shift OIS, whereas the 17 has the first generation sensor shift OIS. And also, the 17 Pro has 3D sensor shift OIS for the telephoto lens specifically, so there's even greater stabilization when zooming in. Now that I was able to tell a difference on, but for the regular OIS, I really was not able to tell a difference between either one of these in photos or in videos. I'm sure there is a slight difference. Maybe I just wasn't being dramatic enough, but it's hard to tell. Like, your daily, just when you're walking around, they're going to perform pretty similar when it comes to stabilizing your shots. And then as for the selfie camera on the front, they both have the same 18 megapixel center stage camera, which has that square lens now. So it is going to be able to kind of adapt and choose if it's going to shoot it in portrait or landscape based on the amount of people in the frame. But there's literally no difference between these two when it comes to the front facing camera. Now, something I thought would be a bigger difference than it actually was this year is the performance. So I thought for sure that since we had the A19 Pro chip and the vapor chamber cooling system on the 17 Pro, that it would be significantly better than the base iPhone 17, pretty much in every category, but I've not really been able to tell a huge difference for that. Like, I do notice that the 17 Pro stays cooler, even as far as or as early as when I was transferring my data over from an old device, the 17 Pro stayed a lot cooler than the base 17. So I can tell that that vapor chamber cooling system is helping reduce the heat output, which is great, especially for the longevity of these devices. But in terms of raw performance, like when I was gaming, when I was doing Lightroom work, I was able to tell a small difference between the two, but it was not near as significant as I guess I was expecting. But I think more of the difference comes with the RAM, because we have 12 gigs of RAM on the Pros, whereas we have 8 gigs on the base 17. And when I was doing multitasking, when I tried to pull up applications that I was out of earlier, it would relaunch a lot more frequently on the base 17 than on the 17 Pro. So definitely you can tell a real life difference in the upgraded RAM on the Pros. But once again, like I always say, if you're somebody who's just texting, you're on social media, you're pulling out your camera, shooting some photos, you're making phone calls, if you're just a really basic average user, you might not notice a difference at all in terms of performance between the A19 and the A19 Pro. Just know there is a difference, but depending on what you're doing, you might not be able to really fully realize that difference between them. But I think the real key of having the A19 Pro chip along with that vapor chamber cooling system is for battery life and just optimization in general. I think you're going to notice a bigger change there than with actual raw performance like gaming and things like that, because the 17 Pro and Pro Max get pretty amazing battery life, even better than the Pros of last year. And I think what helps the battery life a lot on the Pros this year is going to be that vapor chamber cooling system, specifically when outdoors, like when you have a lot of heat coming onto the device externally, like I'm out here in the Florida sun and I have these outside, I do notice a small difference. I really wish there was more of a difference because they still dim, like the screen dims when it gets too hot around the same time. The Pro does last a little bit longer, but it's not really significant. It's only by a couple of minutes. So maybe that's not how the vapor chamber system like fully works, but in my interpretation, like when I'm gaming and also there's external heat coming onto it, I feel like the vapor chamber cooling system should do a better job than that, but it does still, help a lot with battery optimization in general. So you will notice that, and that's also, again, why we have such a thicker device. There's a bigger battery, and that full vapor chamber system is in there, whereas we don't have either one of those on the base 17. But just like I said in my iPhone Air versus iPhone 17 Pro Max video, I still have to charge each of these devices once per day. Like, yes, the 17 Pro and Pro Max will last longer than the base 17, no doubt about it, no matter what you're doing. But the reality is, at least for me personally, I still have to charge each of these phones once per day. Like, yes, I have to charge this phone later in the day, but I still have to charge it before I go to bed, like even before I go into my bedroom to go to bed. So, the difference is going to be negligible, and I really don't think that you should buy one of these specifically for the battery life alone. That should not be the only reason you choose the Pro over the base model. I should also mention that we do have USB 2 speeds on the base iPhone 17, whereas we have USB 3 speeds on the iPhone 17 Pro. So transferring files to like an SSD will be significantly faster on the Pros, which I do that sometimes, especially when I'm using ProRes. So that's a big difference between these two. Now, something else that might make you choose the Pro this year over the base model iPhone 17 is the fact that we finally have good colors on the Pros. Like, for the first time in a while, we have the crazy, outlandish, cosmic orange color. And again, the reason we're able to have cool colors again on the base model or on the Pro iPhones is because we have that aluminum unibody design. It's hard to get color with titanium. So that's why we have, the cosmic orange this year. And also the silver looks really good. However, I have to say that I really love the colors on the base model this year as well. Sage is my personal favorite, but that could be a deciding factor as well based on if you use your phone with a case or without a case. So at the end of the day, I think Apple is continuing to close the gap on the base iPhone and the Pro iPhones. It's getting more dramatic every single year, and I think that's leading up to the foldable iPhone, which my theory is that Apple is making these more similar than ever for really two reasons. I think number one, because we do have that fold coming. That's going to be the new like ultimate Pro device. That's going to be a lot more expensive than even the Pro that we have right now. So Apple's kind of making these closer together, maybe because of that, but also because we're not going to see, based on the rumors, we're not going to see a base model iPhone at this time next year. It's going to come in the spring. So we're not going to see a base iPhone 18, if it's called that, in September of next year. We're going to see it in the springtime of 2027. So there's going to be a longer gap from iPhone to iPhone. So maybe that's another reason why Apple just threw on a lot of really great features on the iPhone 17 so it can last a little bit longer without people thinking that they need to upgrade. So with all that being said, which iPhone should you personally buy? The iPhone 17 or the iPhone 17 Pro or Pro Max? So I would say that if you use the zoom feature on your camera a lot on your iPhone, I think the iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max are going to be worth it for that alone. Especially, like I said, if you have kids, you can't really put a price tag on the memories of the quality you're going to be able to get of them at their games. So, I think that is worth it for the Pros, but it's not just the camera either. Like, again, we do have the better battery life. If you are a fan of this unibody design, that's a big deal. If you're a big gamer, of course, the vapor chamber cooling system is going to help a lot. If you multitask a lot, that's going to help. If you're somebody who shoots videos in ProRes or you take photos in ProRAW, if you maybe, make money from your content, or you're somebody who's just a really big hobbyist who likes taking good photos and posting them online, of course, the Pro is going to be the one for you. Now, on the flip side, if you're somebody who doesn't really zoom a lot on your camera, and you also don't need the tip-top performance or the tip-top battery life, but you still want it to be really good, then the base model iPhone 17 is the one to go with for sure. Like, this year, it's the best bang for buck value iPhone you can get, in my opinion. Really, maybe the best of all time in terms of value that you get for an iPhone, because we said all those features before. I think the biggest one is the fact that we have double the storage. We have that 120 hertz refresh rate, the same brightness, same everything as the Pros, but still at the same $800 price tag. That's really hard to beat with the iPhone 17 here. And not to mention, a lot of people are just going to simply prefer the look of the iPhone 17 over the new look of the iPhone 17 Pro. But if you are somebody who likes to show people that you have, the latest and greatest, of course, you are going to get that with the 17 Pro. So, some people people that's a factor for, so I have to throw that out there. And also, of course, if you're a big tech nerd and you just have to have the latest and greatest, of course, you've probably already decided, and you probably already have it right now, but the 17 Pro or Pro Max are going to be for you based on the size preference. But for me personally, I'm going to be using the iPhone Air as my main device moving forward, but that's pretty much the exact same as the iPhone 17 in relation to this video, because it's just a slimmed down version essentially of the iPhone 17. However, I have to say it, if it was not for the form factor on the iPhone Air, I would be using the iPhone 17 Pro as my main device. Now, the only reason for that is because of the Pro camera features, like ProRes and ProRAW specifically are a major deal for me. When I shoot B-roll, when I shoot some of my shots, I need that feature, which is why I'm always bringing a 17 Pro with me when I'm doing shoots along with my iPhone Air. It's not all the time, it's not a daily occurrence, but when it does come up, I need to have that Pro camera system. However, if I was not a content creator, if I wasn't somebody who liked creating content, then I would absolutely be going for the base model iPhone 17 and calling it a day. The value you get with this phone is just so great, especially again with that 120 hertz ProMotion display, which was the main reason a lot of people even went Pro in the past. It was just for that display, but now it's on the base model for the same $800. So those are my overall thoughts on the iPhone 17 versus the iPhone 17 Pro after about a week of usage. So I did have a SIM card in both of these, not every single day throughout the week. I was using both of them every day throughout the week, but I did, switch off between the Air and the Pro Max as well with having my SIM card in it. But that is my overall impressions of these two phones. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Be sure to check out Insta360 down in the description below. I really do use that gimbal all the time, so I think you will enjoy it. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.